When I was a kid, the sun had a baby's face in it, and it was yellow.
Goo goo gaga, bitch.
Ash and Zach are super smart. They went to college and learned a bunch of stuff. And Bo and Andrew didn't go to college because that's just the way life goes sometimes. What happens when you put them together and you try to make them learn? Grab your friends, let's listen together on Get Dumped on an Info Dump podcast. Good morning. How are we today? Waiting for a response.
Oh, I'm good.
Like from the audience or from us?
From you.
I was like, if you're waiting for the audience, you've been waiting a long time.
Just yell if you're listening to this. Just scream anywhere you are how you're doing. I hope you're in a public space surrounded by people wearing headphones and just screaming incessantly. Welcome to Get Dumped On, the Info Dump podcast. The podcast where four friends get together. You know the gist. You've listened to this before. And if this is your first time, go listen to another one and find out what this podcast is about.
I mean, you can start with almost any episode. There are a few that maybe you shouldn't start with, but
Yeah,
if this is your first one, it'll be fine.
it's good. You're okay. You're going to listen. You're going to learn. You're going to have a good time. I know we are. Because we
we're
always do.
episodic like a 70s sitcom.
Yeah, like old South Park and unlike new South Park, where they have a whole storyline. Now, it's a whole thing. My name is Andrew. I am one of the hosts. Today, Zach will be dumping on us. However, we have our two other hosts. First up would be Mr. Bo.
Oh, hey. Bo, it's me.
It's Bo.
Hey,
There he
I'm
is.
a mister. Well,
If this is your first episode, normally these intros are a little more high energy. I don't know what's happening right now.
And also Ash is here.
Hey, what's up? It's me. I'm here. Let's go.
Bring the energy. And today, Zach will be dumping on us about a topic I do not know because he did not tell me. So
I mean, when do we ever tell you?
that's true. Zach, go. Go.
right.
Dump in. Get your dump in.
Oh, give me a laser noise. Go ba-ba-bow. Yo, listen up. Here's a story about a little guy that lives in a blue world, and all day and all night, and everything he sees is just blue, like him, inside and
We're about to get
outside.
DCMA'd real quick.
Blew his house with a blue little window and a blue Corvette, and everything is blue for him and himself and everybody around, because he ain't got nobody to listen.
What the fuck is going on?
This episode is about blue. This episode is about blue. This episode. Okay.
This episode is about the color blue.
It's about the color blue. I was just thinking about it, and
I am very interested in how this is going to go.
I don't know how this is going to go. I started researching it yesterday. I spent literally the entire day yesterday researching and writing notes for this episode. So it might be a complete unfocused mess. It might be pretty interesting, but I was thinking about it. I mean, all of my episodes are kind of unfocused messes at the end of the day, but I was like, I'm always doing episodes that are like the history of this and the history of that. But what about the science of this and the science of that? And so I was thinking about blue. Like, blue is a great color. What's your favorite color?
Purple.
There's blue and purple. But what's your favorite color?
red. Okay, no,
Well,
I'm
fuck
lying.
you.
I'm lying.
I knew he was going to say. I heard the RGB happening in his brain as he was about to say something.
It's my favorite color is green.
Well, there's blue and green.
Last time I checked, no,
We'll talk about it.
green's green.
And we'll talk about it.
I don't see
okay?
any blue. I just see green.
It's actually interesting.
blue
because
come from?
in a lot of
He's a simple man.
Where's the blue? Where's the blue? Because it looks
a lot
green
of
to
cultures don't distinguish between green and blue. Like
They
in
don't see
Vietnamese,
color?
The,
That's good for
the
them.
color of leaves and the color of blue are like the same color. And there's like the whole concept of blue is enmeshed with the concept of green in a lot of places because of the way that the spectrum of light works. And Ash, I know that your favorite color is purple. So that's just
Those family genes are working.
yeah. But anyway, so I was thinking about it, and blue is a pretty weird color. It doesn't really occur naturally in nature very often. It's a pretty rare
What about
color.
the sky? I see it every day. It's
Yeah,
not rare.
this is what I want to talk about. The sky is like every time that you see blue, it's because of some weird like effect of light. Well, not every time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start talking about light and how light works. And then I'm going to talk about blue light and what makes it special. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about things that are actually blue, like blue dyes and pigments. And then I want to talk about animals and how most blue animals are not actually blue.
What? They're liars, is what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me how light works. Tell me. So Thomas Edison created the light.
Yes, so Thomas Edison
And then-
invented light. Before Edison, there was no light.
Everyone was just walking around with their hands out in front of them, just like, where the fuck am I?
It was like Bird Box.
Terrible movie.
Yeah, it was a really bad movie. I didn't like that movie at all.
it was a bad biopic about Thomas Edison's life. I'll say that he wasn't even in the movie.
Do you know how light works? Do you know how you see things?
I'm
My eyes.
kinda. I mean, I think I understand it. Like if it's
Okay,
on,
so-
like I can see stuff.
Okay.
If it's off,
So,
not very well can I see that stuff.
yeah. So basic primer of how light works. So light works is light is waves. Light is waves. It functions as a wave and also as a particle, but we don't have to
Waves
get
are in
into
the
that
ocean, therefore it is blue. Got it. Episode
And the
over.
ocean's
Yeah.
blue. Oh my
I
god!
figured it out. All right,
What
bye,
an
guys.
episode!
I'll see you guys later.
Thank you. That's been Get Dumped On. Make sure to follow us on the socials.
And so that light has a wavelength. And so as the photons in light move from, the source to wherever it is, they move in these waves. And so the wavelength is the distance between those waves. Now everything that we can see absorbs some amount of light. And they usually they will absorb some wavelengths of light and then reflect other wavelengths of light. And those reflected wavelengths of light get absorbed by our eyes and then perceived as objects in color based on the wavelength of that light. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it penetrates our eyeballs and makes
Yeah.
us see stuff.
So technically everything that you see is a reflection of whatever it is that you're looking at, because that thing reflects light into your eyeballs.
That sounds like a metaphor, but also not a metaphor.
Yeah, it's just the
It's just a
weirdness
reflection,
of living as a
man.
being in this world.
But how can
Um,
mirrors be real if our eyes aren't real?
That's true.
Yes, that's also
Someone
true.
call Jaden. Call Jaden. We need some answers. He
The
knows.
science of light and like photons and shit gets infinitely more complex than that. But this is not, I'm not a quantum physicist, so anything that I would have to say about it would take up the entire length of the podcast. So this is the basics. Light is reflected, we see it. Blue light is light that enters our eyes at a wavelength between 450 and 495 nanometers, with the pure blues around 470 nanometers. Our visible spectrum of light is 380 to 750 nanometers. This varies a ton between animals. This is just what we can see. And some like mantis shrimps can see way more light colors than us.
I'm envious of that. I want to see those colors.
I would love to see those colors.
There has to be a way for science to make our eyeballs better.
Maybe eventually.
If there are any light scientists listening to this, get on that, please.
Hook it up,
Yeah.
bro. Hook it up. So wait, are you saying that the wavelengths are the colors?
Yeah, so the different
Like
wavelengths
the different
of light
wavelengths?
are the
What
colors.
the fuck? I didn't
And
know
so
that.
the light that comes
I'm getting
out from
dumped
the
on.
sun
Oh shit.
is
You better
the
get
light
an
that comes from
umbrella.
the sun contains like all of these different wavelengths of light. It contains like all colors of light. Then when you see like a prism, it separates the visible light into those colors.
So what wavelength is blue, did you say?
Blue
Between what numbers?
is 450 and 495 nanometers.
Okay, what wavelength is red?
Red is
Oh, shit, he knew it. I
between
was trying to trick him.
625 and 750.
I'll get him. What about green? Fucking stumped.
Green.
Something tells me he has a
is-
lot of notes about this.
I didn't write down what green
Stumped.
is.
Got
but-
him. Andrew, I got him. Andrew, I got him for you.
Oh,
but
wow.
basically,
He's not
red-
qualified.
Got him. I'll take over hosting right now. So basically, blue is a color.
It's between 500 and 570 nanometers.
Yeah. Then the outside the visible spectrum of light, like ultraviolet light, has a shorter wavelength than visible light. If you go even further beyond that, you get X-rays.
you can't see it.
And then like super wide wavelength is like radio waves.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah, answer. Daily double.
I got new glasses, right?
Okay.
And they have blue light filters on them, but I can
Mhm.
still see blue. So did I get ripped off?
Well, it's
See
not
beyond blue.
It's not a complete filter. It's like filters out some of that light, but not all of it.
Because I didn't want to see blue at all. They're like, there's a blue light filter. And I was like, I hate blue. Get it out of my eyeballs.
Well, then, yeah, you got hosed.
Damn it.
Remember Roy G. Biv? You know Roy G. Biv?
RGB?
Yeah.
So Roy G. Biv are
My boy Roy.
It's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet.
It's Ruth Gator Binsberg.
And these are
jokes are fun.
Oh my God, you're so happy about that one. Jesus.
Oh, I love that one. I'm proud of that one.
I know. I've never seen you laugh so hard at your own fucking joke on this show before.
So this is the defined colors in the spectrum of light that we can see as defined by Isaac Newton. And so like back in the 1600s or whatever the fuck Isaac Newton was discovering, talking about all this stuff. So red is pretty much the lowest, the highest wavelength of light that we can see, whereas violet is the lowest wavelength of light that we can see.
That's why we like purple. We're underachievers.
Yeah.
And so the interesting thing about the spectrum of light is that it's a spectrum. And so our decisions on where to put the delineations between each color are entirely based on cultural preference and like what we decide the important colors are. So like when Isaac Newton was defining the colors, he chose 7 colors because, well, let's see. Why do you think that Newton picked 7 colors?
Because 7 is a lucky number.
They were the only ones that he could see.
So back then, that's the highest they could count to.
that too.
Basically is, yeah. 7 is kind of an important number. At the time, there were 7 known planets in the solar system. There's 7 days in the week, and there's 7 notes in the musical scale. And so specifically the reason that he said was that there's 7 notes in the musical scale because he saw a correlation between color and music.
Do you think he was synesthetic?
Maybe. I knew a girl with synesthesia once. It was pretty cool.
For those who don't know, obviously not me and Bo, but could you explain what that word means?
Synesthesia is when people see, like they hear music and see colors. It's like linked in their brains.
Or they can like taste colors. It's like their senses get crossed.
Hey, Bo, what does blue taste like?
Water really, which has no flavor regardless. So nothing.
Oh my God, he's a Salustalia.
Shall I retake over this podcast? All right, blue sucks. Anybody's favorite color is blue. All right, back to you.
I love blue. I think blue is good on me.
Synesthesia is a perceptual phenomenon in which stimulation of one sensory or cognitive pathway leads to involuntary experiences in another. For instance, people with synesthesia may experience colors when listening to music, see shapes when smelling scents, or perceive tastes when looking at words.
That's interesting. I feel like everyone has a little bit of that, but I'm sure there are people who are like, super synesthesias.
Yeah. So basically what it comes down to with the wavelengths is that a lower wavelength, so like a red, means that this always gets me confused. Lower wavelengths have a higher frequency. So blue, the lower wavelength means that there's less space in between the waves. So blue having this lower wavelength means that it is a reasonably high energy color. There's more energy in the light of that wavelength. Then red has the lowest energy of our visible spectrum.
Which is kind of crazy because red is usually the fast color.
Yeah.
Like cars that are red are Kerchow.
And so this difference between the energy in the amount, like the energy in the wavelengths of light is the reason why red and green LEDs were the first colors to be invented. And so red and green LEDs were created during the 50s and 60s. And that's why like a lot of old clocks and shit had like red LED lights, or like green LEDs were like a big thing in tech from the 80s because blue LEDs hadn't been invented yet. And they weren't invented until the 90s because basically the way that an LED works is that it's a solid state surface, which is a sandwich of semiconductor materials, and they drop electrons into a gap when current is applied.
So many words.
And then that electron drop causes photons to emit. And so for a high energy of blue, they need a larger gap. Basically, long story short, is they needed to synthesize these really nice crystals of gallium nitride to have the like energy to create blue wavelengths.
I feel like Electron Drop would be a really good name for like a dubstep festival.
That's really good. Yeah. That's so good. All right, someone make it happen. The EDM nerds make it happen. So
I'll
wait,
do it.
You're saying that red and green were created because they were easy to create?
Yes.
Is that the reason why red means stop and green means go? Because those
Well, no,
were the
because-
first two that were made. And like
I
in
don't think
electronic stuff, like red is like an abrasive color, and that would mean to stop doing whatever you're doing. And green is a happier color.
That I have no idea about. I mean, aren't traffic lights just colored like tinted glass with a light bulb behind them?
Well, that, yeah. But I mean, like in like electronic stuff, like, you know, you're working a switchboard. If the only ones that existed were red and green, is that why?
Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to look into it in a follow-up
Yeah.
episode or something.
Interesting.
Isn't it because you can see red from farther away?
Well, this is why red is used as the color in like a dark room when you're developing pictures, because red light is so low energy that it doesn't affect the film the same way that like other wavelengths of light would. So you can safely develop film in a room with a red light because it's so low energy compared to like blue or violet light.
I'm red.
All right. From now on, please, could we attribute characters to all of these based on their descriptions from Zach, please? Thank you.
Blue lasers have a similar problem as blue LEDs, and they also have to use gallium nitride for like creating the color. And so this is why when you see like on YouTube, they're using like YouTubers using lasers to pop balloons and melt shit. It's usually a blue or violet laser because the blue light has more energy. Then
I'm a
this is
blue laser.
also
I'm gonna pop the balloon. Pew, 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 pew.
this is also important to
Pop,
how
pop.
Blu-rays work. How Blu-rays rely on a 405 nanometer laser, which is technically violet, but it does appear blue when shown onto a white surface. So you could say that it's blue. But like a Blu-ray is called a Blu-ray because it uses this blue laser, and because
Oh my god, I never knew that.
traditionally CDs and DVDs used a red laser, but blue has a lower wavelength than red, so the laser is narrower and more high power, and so it can read more, like data can be jammed
Really
more
get in
densely
there.
onto
Just
a
like,
disc.
Wow.
Get in there, Data.
And the team who developed the tech for synthesizing these gallium nitride
Wow.
crystals received a Nobel Prize in 2014.
Good
Oh,
job,
shit,
guys.
Cool.
Hey, good for them.
You guys
Good
deserve
job.
it.
Good for them, light nerds.
Yeah. And so then you talk about the sky. Why is the sky blue? And the sky is blue because of a process called Rayleigh scattering, which was discovered by this English guy. His last name was Rayleigh.
Was his name Rayleigh Scattering? Oh.
His last name was Rayleigh. And so this is going to come up a lot, Rayleigh scattering, but basically the gases in the atmosphere. So our atmosphere
You just like saying
is
really scary.
full up a bunch of
My
different
farts,
I mean, it's a fun
essentially,
thing to
is what you're
say.
saying.
Well, throw it up to the atmosphere, though. Honestly, like, pretty chill to have an atmosphere. You know,
Yeah,
it's pretty
big
cool.
ups to
Yeah.
the atmosphere.
It's nice. That's without it, we would be dead.
Dead.
So yeah, good big atmosphere fans here.
So-
no,
because-
no atmosphere denying here.
I don't know. I just feel like I'm fat. That's why there's no atmosphere.
Is the
That's gravity.
atmosphere also flat?
Well, it's the firmament. The flat earthers say that the atmosphere is a dome over the flat disk of
Oh,
the Earth.
so it's round.
It's round. Fucking idiots. Why would they believe something is round?
So basically, the gases of the atmosphere cause the light from the sun to scatter. And because blue is on the stronger end of the light spectrum, it scatters
fuck outta
further.
here.
It becomes the dominant color of the sky. But yellows and reds are weaker, so they are what you see when you look closer to the sun. They don't scatter as far.
So they're like cockroaches. Like they
Yeah.
when they reach our atmosphere, they're like scatter, and like you turn on a light in the kitchen, and they go and they like run away.
But if you look at the sun in space, the sun is white.
Is that why
Oh.
sunsets are red and yellow? Because like it's changing how it's scattering?
Exactly.
Oh my god.
What the fuck?
And so that scattering is also what like the color of water is reflecting that scattering. And that's why
the sun is
oceans are blue.
white when you look at it from the space.
Yeah, so it contains
Just a
all
burning white
colors
hot
of light.
ball of light.
How come like every picture we see is red?
Because you're looking at
I'm
wrong
gonna Google
photos.
it.
Excuse me,
I'm
when
gonna
I
Google
was
it.
a child, the sun was yellow.
But that's only in Teletubbies land. Okay.
I don't know. When I drew pictures, I always drew the sun
It
yellow.
put sunglasses on the sun, it was yellow.
No, yeah, he's always a cool sun.
Well, so like the sun is
Oh, yeah, look at
the
that.
sun
It's
is
white.
Is
I just
white,
Googled it.
is white. It's emitting radiation, so light,
You
ultraviolet,
fact-
and
you
infrared.
fact
It's
check
all
that?
radiation, and it's just getting filtered through the atmosphere to make it look yellow.
That's
No, I
wild.
didn't fact check him. I just looked up pictures of it.
Just to confirm.
If you look up a true color image of the sun, like all the orange
That
pictures
motherfucker's
of the
white.
sun are like color corrected to more correctly like reflect our opinion of what the sun should look like based on how it looks from our atmosphere.
Which you're saying
bananas.
that flat earthers should not be worried about the earth being flat. They should be worried about people photoshopping the sun.
Yeah, exactly.
Conspiracy.
When I was a kid, the sun had a baby's face in it and it was yellow.
And it giggled at me all the
Good
time.
Giggled
Gaga,
at me.
bitch.
And then when I got older, the sun was wearing sunglasses because it's bright up there.
Because then he had raisins and he threw them at me
Yeah.
with a scoop. There's at least one scoop.
So next I want to talk about stuff that is actually blue. Some blue, like, so most of the blue stuff on the planet is in the form of like blue minerals, and like copper tarnishing is blue, and these sorts of things. And so
And the only reason we see that blue is because it's being reflected with the right spectrum of light, or what is it, the waveform of light off of that specific surface.
exactly.
So it's a two-part system. Well,
Yes.
three-part if you
So
include our
the-
eyeballs.
the structure of that, like the properties of that object, absorb all colors of light except for blue.
Wait, they absorb all the colors and then the blue is what gets reflected out?
Yes.
What the fuck?
So this is
why is
why-
light so complicated? Just make it blue.
So this is why, like, if you're in California in the middle of the summer and you're wearing a black shirt, the shirt itself will get really hot because black is absorbing all colors of light and not
And
reflecting any.
nothing.
And so it's absorbing the full strength of the light.
Whoa. No wonder I was so sweaty all the time because I only wore black shirts and still do.
Mhm.
I'm that guy.
Maybe there's an ideal color to wear. I feel like it's probably white. But so throughout human history, we've been really, so I do have to put some history into it. Throughout human history, because blue is a relatively uncommon color in nature, it's been an appealing color for people to use for clothing, for textiles, and like paint and stuff like that. But it's also like in the sky, but you can't just take the sky and turn it into a dye. It doesn't work that way.
Not
And so
yet, at
people have
least.
been finding blue minerals and blue from other weird sources to turn it into something that we can use to turn things blue. So the most important one of these is a naturally occurring stone called lapis lazuli or lapis lazuli. It depends, or lapis lazuli. It really depends on who you're asking. I always said lapis lazuli, but
It's weird that you say that. There's one of the answers on Jeopardy yesterday was that.
interesting. So lapis is it's a naturally
I
occurring
watched
stone.
Jeopardy. I'm not
which
that
is
dumb.
It's a mixture of lazurite, calcite, and pyrite. And so lazurite is the mineral that gives it a blue color through the presence of the trisulfur radical anion. And somebody will know what that means. I don't know what that means, but I'm just reporting what I read. And pyrite gives it these golden veins. And so it's this blue stone with these golden veins. And these two properties made it really intensely valuable. It's not actually gold, but it looks like gold. And so it's a precious stone. And you can see lapis used as a cut and polished stone in jewelry and art from Egypt and Asia. And our biggest source of like modern lapis comes from Afghanistan. And so Europe was importing a lot of lapis from Afghanistan back in the day as well.
Ash, are you bored? I heard a big yawn.
Yeah, what the hell, Ash?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yawn. I'm just sleepy.
No, I get it.
I heard Zach talking and then I go, "Hmm."
This is a boring one. This is a boring. I'm just kidding.
I'm
just kidding.
always sleepy.
Okay, so you're talking about, like, I have a question. I'm back in space. I'm looking at space pictures right now. So
I'm
the
back on
atmosphere is
Earth.
blue,
We're not
right?
talking about space anymore.
I have one last question about space. What is it? No.
Okay.
So the atmosphere is blue if you're standing on Earth, on land, or on a boat, looking up, and you see blue. But
Mhm.
why do pictures from? I know you're hosting, so obviously you're an expert on this. So answer wildly. If you're in space and looking at Earth, why is only some of it blue, and you could still see the colors of, land differently?
Because you're seeing the blue that's reflected. So the sky blue is being reflected off the water. That light is going out, and that's what you're seeing.
But why is there no like blue atmosphere over land? Like you don't see just a
Because-
blue ball.
Well, you kind of do.
Whoa.
Like there's the whole thing from the moon, or from like if the like Carl Sagan has this whole thing about it. Like the pictures of Earth from like the Voyager satellite, it just looks like a pale blue dot.
Yeah. Also, an amazing song by The Receiving End of Sirens. Great song.
This is not something that I also read that much about.
Come on, man.
So
you knew I was going to ask wild questions about space.
I spent more
What are
time
stars?
I spent more time researching the stones. I don't know.
Is
I wanna talk
Starlink
about
like
lapis.
cool? Like what? All right, go. Keep
Wanna
talking
talk
about
about-
lapis.
Lapis lazuli. So because it's a naturally occurring mineral, sometimes you get more with more pyrite and sometimes you get some with less pyrite. And so the stuff with the more pyrite was being commonly used as a precious stone for jewelry or for sculptures or things like that. But the stuff with that was all lazurite was being used to make a pigment called ultramarine. Shout out to the ultramarine chapters of Space Marines who are blue. But it's a beautiful, rich blue pigment. It's gorgeous, but because it's made from a ground up stone, precious stone, it was extremely valuable and expensive.
If you have smart lights in your house right now, tell your system to change it to ultramarine, and it's a very nice color. I do it all the time. It's very calming. It's a sweet little color.
And it's called ultramarine because in Latin it's called ultramarinus, which means it came from beyond the sea because it was being imported into Europe from Asia.
Okay, that's dope as shit.
So if you combine this stone powder with a medium like resin or tempera or any of the old weird oils that they used for paint medium, you've got ultramarine paint, which was very expensive in Europe and used very sparingly. But because it's made of ground stone, it's really good at retaining its color. So if you look at these old paintings, a lot of the times, a lot of the other colors will be faded, but the blue will still stand out really well. But because it was so expensive, it was usually reserved just to be the robes of the Virgin Mary during like the Renaissance.
What?
Because the robes of the Virgin Mary were the most important part of the painting,
Huh.
especially in like medieval art. And ultramarine, because of this, has been found in the teeth and jaws of old dead monks
What?
because they were using it as a paint in illuminated manuscripts and then licking their brushes.
Ew!
And
Don't
it's
do
a
that.
stone, so it doesn't like decompose. So they just find this stone in the jaws.
Don't. No. Don't. I mean, I know they're dead, so telling them not to do it is,
Yeah.
they're already dead. But no, don't do that. For those monks who are listening right now, stop it.
I'm gonna do it.
Whenever I paint, I always lick my brushes. And reading this made me think like maybe I shouldn't be licking my
Wait,
brush.
you
Oh,
lick
like,
it
at
was
the end of
this
the day-
and not the radium girls?
Bob Ross taught you to put it in the thing in the water and then smack
Bob
it on
Ross
something
uses
else.
oil paints. I use acrylic paint, so
But he's
it's
also
fine.
dead, actually,
I
so
use
you
lead
probably shouldn't
paint.
take his advice. But it's all lead.
And this is not. I
90%
don't use
lead.
radium paint, so I'm not going to get Fossey jaw like the
Yeah,
radium girls.
they didn't know that was radium paint either until they were dead and had cancer in their mouths.
Yeah. Ultramarine, more like ultra dead.
Yeah, you
So
got
for
it.
some good
Fucking-
examples
you
of
got it.
ultramarine paint, just check out like Johannes Vermeer's paintings.
I'm
Like
not doing I'm
But
not-
how do you say his name in his native accent?
Honestly, I already forgot his name. So,
Johannes Vermeers.
oh, there it is.
One that you probably know is the girl with the pearl earring.
yeah, she's got that.
I've never seen a
that blue
painting in my
scarf.
life.
And that's a ultramarine paint.
You know, I weirdly
I'm
believe
not
that.
even gonna look at this because I refuse to look at paintings. It was my
So it's
New
like,
Year's
what's a Mona Lisa? Is that a person? Like, is it a sandwich? I don't know.
Yeah, but I've never-
Like a Monte
I've-
Cristo?
I've never seen that painting in my life, and I'm not doing a bit right now. So,
I feel like I saw that somewhere in real life.
oh, that was me. I was wearing a wig.
What, the girl with the pearl earring?
I don't remember. I've been to a lot of art exhibits, but it may have been a forgery.
Fucking nerds.
Mm.
Art
Where
I
is
don't know.
that?
Where is it? Ash, look up where the girl with the pearl earring is.
Yeah.
And while you do that, I want to talk another
It's
example.
it's in
of-
the Netherlands.
Ah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, never seen it in real life. Never been to the
Another one of these blue stones that was used for pigment was called azurite, which is, azure is another word for blue, depending on the language you're talking about.
which language?
Azul.
A lot of them. Azul in Spanish. Yeah, you should know this.
I know that. I was trying to test you. You passed. Here's your Mexican green card.
How do you say blue in German?
Oh, shit. It's blau.
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 God, why is
Blau?
everything that they like? German is so aggressive.
Nah, it's
Blau.
well, if you actually listen
Like,
to
you
watch
don't
a
say
German
it like
movie
blau,
or talk
you go
to a
blau.
German, It's a really nice sounding language if it's not being shouted by a dictator.
That's probably fair to say.
So azurite is it's actually a mineral. So
They're minerals, Marie.
I put that in my notes. Another one of those blue stones, actually a mineral, parentheses, Jesus Christ, Marie. But it is weathered copper ore. It's Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad. Never seen Breaking Bad?
Never seen Breaking Bad in my life.
You've never seen Breaking Bad?
You should watch it. It's a good show.
You should
Never
watch
seen
it.
Never
No,
seen
you should.
You know
Do
what?
it right now.
Watch it.
Just get off the podcast and go start
It's
it.
been spoiled so much. Like, I know how it ends, I think. Because, like, as soon as it happened,
You
the internet
think-
went crazy. And everyone's like, oh my God, this is how it happened. This is what happens to Walter White. And I'm like, okay, well, now I don't have to watch this fucking show.
Yeah, well, so
You
The
should
story
still
is
watch
not
it.
just about it's not just about the journey to the ending. It's about how it's done and what happens along the way.
Let me
I
guess.
just-
I've never seen it before. I'm going to recap the whole thing right now.
I just watched The Sopranos after it being off the air for 20 years. The
There's a guy
first
named
time.
Walter. He's a white guy. His last name is also white.
Ah.
He's bald, and he wears sunglasses and a hat. And he starts making meth because he wants money, I would assume. And then he meets this guy who yells
See, you
bitch all
don't
the
even
time.
know. You don't even know.
See, you're already far
Nope,
off.
you don't know. You have no idea
And
what you're talking
then
about.
they
you're-
make
you're-
meth together.
Stop
And
becoming all
then
stupid.
there's a lot of drama of like, will they, won't they make out with each other? And then they end up falling in love. He and the guy who yells bitch all the time.
Oh, crap.
You know
Okay.
what, Drew? I really think you should watch it.
No,
The point that I'm going to make
You got a
here
great
is that if
synopsis.
your approach to media is just knowing what the plot of something is, then why bother watching anything and just read the Wikipedia summary?
No, it's more like it's like the reason why Evan hasn't watched Star Wars. It's just out of spite now because like everyone loves it so much to where I'm just don't want to watch it now.
I know, but that's just
And, like,
dumb. It's
When
another
did Breaking Bad end?
Being a hipster.
Yeah, it's being a hipster. When
Hey,
did
speaking
Breaking
of
Bad end?
Star
Like
Wars,
10, 15 years ago?
Speaking of Star Wars, Luke Skywalker's lightsaber is blue in the first two movies. So,
And it's green
interesting
in the
thing
third
about
because it's Bo's
azurite.
favorite color.
Mm-hmm.
It's green in the third because the blue didn't show up well against the desert setting in the skiff over the
Over Tatooine and the Sarlacc pit?
Yeah, the Sarlacc pit. That's the word I was looking for. It didn't show up against the sky because in the first two movies the lightsaber is only being used indoors, and so in the third one they were like, oh no, we're doing it outdoors in the day. How is the blue lightsaber going to show up against the sky? Aha, green now.
They changed it for that reason?
Yeah. Well, also because his lightsaber went missing at the end.
Oh,
of
yeah, he
Empire,
lost his
but
hand
they
with
were
his
like-
lightsaber.
Oh,
But they
yeah, it's
could've-
true.
They could have just given him another blue one, but instead they were like green. So twofold. The behind the scenes reason is because of the whole thing with the sky, and then the in universe reason is because this is to show that he has a new lightsaber.
Okay.
Well, and George Lucas
Anyway.
he used to paint over the film with blue on his lightsaber. Just FYI, a fun fact about that too. It wasn't showing up well. It was showing up very white when he was doing it.
And when he did paint that, he used to lick his brushes, and that's why we haven't seen him in a very long time.
Yeah. He added blue on the
so-
film itself.
Azurite was called ceruleum or ceruleum in
Brilliant.
Latin, which is where the color cerulean gets its name.
For Misty's, Jim is at Cerulean
I was
City.
going to say, which Bo would recognize from Pokemon.
I'm on my way
Uh,
to Cerulean City.
And so azurite was a lot more variable in color than ultramarine, but it was used as a substitute for ultramarine because it was more plentiful and cheaper and easier to find, but the colors were more variable. Then cobalt is another good one, and I have a fun story about where the name for cobalt comes from. And so
Can we
cobalt
guess?
blue is another very nice blue.
Or can you
Sonic the
quiz us?
Hedgehog is cobalt blue. What did you say?
Can you quiz us on like what the name came from? Give us a hint.
So, is it named after? I can't think of two fake ones off the top of my head. So you come up with something.
Power tools.
It's definitely named Cobalt. Cobalt Co. or
It's a
Power
tool.
Tools.
It's a tool company.
Yeah, the tool company came first.
Yeah,
What came first, the power tools or the color?
power tools. Obviously.
Chicken or the egg scenario here. Let's figure it out.
So
We
cobalt blue was used for centuries in China, starting in the late 8th and early 9th century as a blue paint for blue and white porcelain. They used cobalt blue, but they kept it a secret, and nobody in Europe knew how to make this blue paint.
That's pretty
and
cool.
Cobalt, so they wanted this blue from China, but they couldn't figure out how to make it.
The Europeans are like, how do you do that? And they're like, I'll never tell.
And so cobalt is it's a metal that in its natural form, as it's mined out, it's blue. Not blue. It's not blue. It's silver colored. And so in Europe, cobalt had a reputation as fake silver because it looks like silver in its mined form, but when melted down, it would release arsenic because arsenic was attracted to the metal naturally. And so the gases from melting it down would be toxic. So people would think that they were melting down silver, but then actually they would get arsenic poisoning and die.
Jesus
and so
Christ.
the miners thought that this was the work of kobolds, which are a
The
mythical
tools they were
sprite
using. Oh,
that are similar to goblins. So they thought that basically these goblins, who they called
It's the
kobolds,
drill.
were stealing the silver and replacing it with fake silver to like do mischief and kill
Trixie
people.
goblins.
And
Those
so
little goblins will
cobalt
get
is
you.
named after the kobolds. And then, 1,000 years
But
later,
Zach, those are a character in D&D.
yeah, and then 1,000 years later, Gary Gygax was looking at European mythology to create the monster manual for Dungeons and Dragons and turned kobolds into the cutest little mischievous dragon men that they are today, which is fun.
And they use tools.
Yeah, and they use tools. And so cobalt blue is made from melting together cobalt oxide and aluminum oxide. And this would make it turn it blue. And so the Europeans figured this out finally in the early 1800s, which was just in time for the Impressionist movement. And a lot of Impressionists and Post-Impressionists loved cobalt blue. Starry Night is largely made with cobalt blue. And so it
That's
became...
That's a good one.
So it was a good one. And it was easy to make and plentiful. And so this kind of started an era where blue paint was a lot more readily available than it was before when they were just relying on ultramarine or azurite.
Dude, could you imagine being a painter in that time and being like, man, I keep hearing rumblings, this new color, bro. It's going to be cool. And everyone's like, nah,
New
they're never
color
going to
out
give
of
it up.
China.
It's those Chinese people. They love keeping it under wraps. They got their secrets over there. And then one day someone like busts in a room and they're like, we figured it out. We did it. It killed 30 of our guys with arsenic poisoning, but we figured it out. That must have been so cool. That's like, the new Marvel movie dropping back when Marvel movies were cool. Like everyone was like, sweet, like colors.
Yeah. And this was synthetic pigments were still pretty new at this time. The first, I will talk about it in a sec. I guess we could talk about synthetic blues now. The first synthetic pigment ever made was Egyptian blue, which was made in Egypt a few thousand years ago. And it was made it was used by the Egyptians as a substitute for lapis because, lapis was too rare, but they still wanted things to be blue. But the recipe was lost. People didn't know how to make Egyptian blue. People still don't exactly know how Egyptian blue was made. But scientists who have reverse engineered it think it was made from a mix of silica, calcium oxide, and copper oxide. So copper is showing up in here again because copper makes things blue. And then Prussian blue, which was the first synthetic pigment of the modern era.
Bob Ross used that all the time.
It was accidentally synthesized for the first time in the early 1700s. And so it was accidentally created when a guy named Johann Jacob Diesbach used potash tainted with blood to try and create red cochineal dye. Potash is like a mixture and cochineal is just crushed up beetles, which is fun. And that's a really common source for carmine
this
red.
guy, he smushed up a bunch of beetles and mixed it with his blood to try and make red.
Yeah, and this potash, which is like a chemical, like a ash of some sort. And so the original dye that he was trying to make required potash, ferric sulfate, and dried cochineal, but he tried to substitute the ferric sulfate with blood, and instead it made it blue. And from there, they were able to turn it into an actual, they figured out what in the blood made it blue and turned it into an actual, commercially available, pigment, this Prussian blue.
That dude, he was so tired all the time because they were constantly taking his blood for that. We need more blue. He's like, I got it. Pulls that knife out.
Yeah. And then Bob Ross's favorite blue that I always associate with Bob Ross is phthalo blue.
Phthalo blue, classic. He loved that phthalo.
Blue, which is first developed in the 1930s, was made from copper phthalocyanine, which is copper and phthalic acid mixed together. So there's copper coming into all of these, baby. And then a lot of other synthetic blue pigments are actually a secret. So you can get ultramarine blue paint in it now, and it's synthetic ultramarine, but the companies that produce it keep the recipe a secret. It's all under patents. So I don't know how to make a lot of these other ones. And then the other most important modern synthetic blue is Klein blue, which was a really important thing in the modernist art. But I gotta keep going. I gotta keep moving. Because I want to talk about indigo. I want to talk about plants. I want to talk about blue plants. If you look at flowering plants, less than 10% of flowering plants have blue coloring. And those that do don't make blue dyes, because the blue that they use in the flowers is actually a red pigment called anthocyanin. And then internally, the plant shifts the pH of the anthocyanin, which turns it blue. But if you crush up that plant, you actually get red. So
that plant needs to make up its fucking mind.
And so plant-based blue dyes use indigo, which is within the leaves of certain plants. And so in Europe, the big one was woad. And woad, you might recognize from like the Celts used woad paint to like paint their faces. But woad is a plant that actually has yellow flowers and green leaves like a regular plant. But you can turn it into a blue dye by processing the fuck out of it. That was commonly used in medieval Europe. And so the process took a really long time. So you would grow it as a crop, you would chop it up into a paste with a horse-driven mill, and you would form it into balls by hand. Then you dry them in the sun for 4 weeks, break them up into a powder, sprinkle that with piss, and ferment it.
What?
Then once that dried again, you would pack it into barrels and send it to a dyer. Hold on. Soak them in hot water, which got the color out. And then they would have to add bran yeast or beer and lime to ferment it again, and then it could finally be used as dye.
Hold the fuck up. Okay.
This is actually a really common ingredient in a lot of early pigments
piss
and dyes.
And blood and shit. Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
hold on. You said you chop this thing up and then you smash it up with a horse thing and then you put it in, make it into balls, and then you let it sit for 4 weeks and then you pee on it.
Yeah.
Who the fuck? What
Right? How did they come up
crazy
with that?
motherfucker was like, how about we just let it sit out for exactly 4 weeks and then, I'm just going to pee on it. Like, who the fuck
I was actually
thought of that?
There's a lot of urea involved in early dye production. I don't know what it is about urea that makes it like cause these dyes to like fix more easily. I don't know what it is, but a lot of early dyes used urea in some capacity or another. And
I'm astounded.
Hey, you know this stuff that we put 4 weeks, well, probably longer than 4 weeks of work in. Do you mind if I just piss all over it?
I'm hoping it was like a mistake. Like some drunk guy stumbled into their thing and was like, "Is this the bathroom?" And then he's like, and he peed all over everything. And they're like, "No, Jerry." And then Jerry was like, "What?" And he turns around and then they're like, "Oh shit, we can work with this. Keep peeing, Jerry."
Well, no, because you have to add something else to it and then ferment it again. So they were probably just like, well, let's just keep going with the process, I guess.
If there's I say that all the time. Like if we go back in time, I would love to go back in time and find out how the fuck they figured that out. Yeah, just be a fly on the wall and be like, well, "Are you really fucking peeing on this thing?"
So I think that like it starts making the blue, but you can't actually fix it to anything until the second fermentation.
So the second piss party.
Yeah. And so woad was pretty common source for blue in the medieval era, but it wasn't like you could dye clothes with it, you can make paint with it, but the problem with woad was it produced the chemical indigo, but in really low concentrations compared to true indigo, which I'll just talk about. But it would also devastate soil. Woad, the plant that woad is made from, was really thirsty and would take all the nutrients out of the soil to the point where laws had to be passed in certain areas to prevent how much woad could be grown.
Or just choke everything else out.
It was like, "Hey man, give me that sweet golden shower. I'm thirsty."
It wouldn't choke it out, but rather it would just suck all the nutrients out of the soil and you couldn't grow anything there anymore.
Isn't that what choking out?
Well, I feel like choking out means that there's so many of one plant that it makes it so that the other plants can't get the nutrients, but rather it's just sucking the nutrients out so that even when the woad is gone, nothing else can grow there.
Jesus.
Ruined it for everybody else.
Yeah.
Woad is a very like asshole, I think, is what you're saying. Of the plant world, they're kind of a dick. They're very self-centered.
Yeah. So true indigo are plants from a genus called Indigofera. And these can be found in tropical regions in Asia and the Americas. And so they have an amino acid in their leaves called indican, which is a derivative of tryptophan. And the leaves are green like regular leaves, but the indican soaks out in water and then becomes more intense as it's fermented. And so it's a lot easier to prepare than woad, because you only have to do the
you don't
first
have to
fermentation.
piss on it. Yeah, I mean,
You don't have to
still
piss
pee
on it. And it's a lot more color fast. It'll attach to the dyes and not leave. And that's why it's used as it took over. Like once true indigo was introduced into Europe, it immediately took over from woad, to the point where some countries that were really reliant on the woad industry were like, we're talking about how like indigo actually like rots the fibers, and don't bring indigo in here. But in reality, they were just trying to protect the extant woad industry.
What are we supposed to do with all this piss?
Hey, Bo, what are they supposed to do with all the piss? I just got him.
Bo just texted. He said, "Got to poop. Don't call on me."
He's pooping right now. I just wanted to point it out that he's pooping right now. Oh, he heard us.
He called you a bastard.
He called us a bastard. Love you, Bo. I hope your poop is going well.
Indigofera plants occur naturally in tropical environments, and they were used in the Indian subcontinent and the Americas to make blue coloring. And so famously, some of the earliest known use of indigo is from Huaca Prieta in Peru about 6,000 years ago.
Hey, we
and
covered that.
Yeah. It was also used very prominently by the Maya to make a color called Maya blue, which has a nice turquoisiness to it. This is another thing like Egyptian blue, where they used it a lot, and then their culture was systematically destroyed by the Spanish, and so people forgot how to make Maya blue. But it's been reversed engineered again, and so it's from a local indigofera plant called anil, mixed with a specific local type of clay called palygorskite, and you mix those together in the right ratios, and you can make Maya blue.
What's
they're
the
really
difference
famous.
between
Look up
blue
the murals at
and indigo?
Look up the murals at Bonampak. So indigo is not. Indigo is the chemical that's used to make indigo dye, which turns things blue. So like jeans are dyed with indigo. But indigo, the color, is kind of purple, like purplish. But here's the thing about indigo, the color, is that the indigo, like based on modern color science, they're excluding indigo from the spectrum of light. Now
Wow, racist.
Like these days, a lot of people replace indigo with cyan, and so it's Roy G CBV, which does not have the same ring to it as Roy G.
Yeah,
Biv.
I can't make a Ruth Bader Ginsburg out of that.
But indigo, the color as like defined in the Roy G. Biv, is not actually super perceptible by our eyes, which is why people are removing it from the spectrum. But like indigo, the color in that and indigo, the dye, are different. It's weird. Don't think about it too hard.
Cyan, I was looking up colors right now. I think that my Google search history now believes that there's a child on my computer because I'm just looking up colors. But the difference between cyan and indigo is very vast, at least in current color spectrum.
They put cyan before blue. So
yeah, cyan is much lighter. It's like a light blue, like a mix between green and blue, where indigo was like purple.
You guys know.
How was your poop? Was it blue?
Nah. It was more.
Have you ever pooped a color that is not poop color?
I pooped green once, and that was because of the way that my body produces, the way that your body processes blue food dye, which is weird.
That same thing happened to me. I chewed a bunch of blue gum when I was younger, and like I got a pack of blue gum when I was like a teenager, and I chewed like all of them within like a week. There's too much, and at the end of that week, my poop was blue, and I thought I had to go to the hospital, but I didn't.
Cool.
The end of my story. Blue poop.
So for Europeans, they got indigo from the Indian subcontinent, and indigo was named after that. In Latin, it's indicum. In Greek, it was called indicon, which basically just means from India. So that's fun. Then the rise of colonialism in the 17th and 18th centuries is kind of what led to this big boom in the indigo industry. And the reason why navy blue is because of British colonialism, which is great. So because indigo was easier to prepare, more color fast than woad, it took over the color industry. And the British used their colonies in India as big indigo plantations. They enslaved people to make them grow and process indigo, and now this easy access to the indigo dye resulted in the British Navy using it to dye their uniforms. which is why we call it navy blue. And so it was a combination of this color, which was once very difficult to procure, now being very plentiful, and a show of power because they made it plentiful through exploitation and slavery. And actually, North Carolina was also a big indigo slave plantation area as well. So
That's very depressing.
very depressing, less fun. Okay, and that's all of my blue dyes. Blue as a primary color is a societal construct, and there's nothing special and scientific about red, yellow, and blue to make them primary colors. And a lot of other things like RGB and CMYK is just art things. So now I want to move into blue animals. So name some blue animals for me.
Blue
Blue
jay.
animals, blue jay, blue elephant,
Blue whale.
blue whale,
Blue chew.
blue dog,
Most of them are birds.
blue muskrat,
Yeah.
blue rat. I'm making things up.
Fish.
Okay.
Frogs. Peacocks.
Oh,
Yeah. So blue whales are actually gray. So there's
Oh my
that.
God.
oh, you just got dumped on. Get an umbrella. 'cause it's
Okay,
dumping.
again, going back to the Antarctic episode when you were talking about the flightless flies, which are just bugs. Come on. Like, what asshole scientist was like, that's a blue whale, and they're like, it's gray. He's like, nah, it's blue, but also that's a flightless fly. It doesn't fly. It doesn't have. No, it's
Well,
fly.
the gray whale already existed.
So they couldn't think of another name.
Grayish
Grayer whale, regular whale. I don't.
Ultra
So-
gray whale.
Ultra grayine.
Just call it the ultra whale because it's so fucking big.
Yeah, mega whale.
Mega whale.
Super whale.
So as we've established, a lot of stuff is not actually blue. So like cochineal red dye is made from crushing up red bugs, but you can't just crush up blue bugs to make blue dye because most blue bugs are not actually blue. And so what I mean by that is that
What you mean by that?
their cells have structures in them that reflect and refract light to reflect blue light back at you. And so these are actually colorless cells. They don't have pigment in them. And instead they have structures like a cryptocrystalline structure that makes the light reflect blue.
I feel like we can harness that for evil.
I'm sure it probably already has. So a lot of animals don't want to necessarily. So I guess
Oh, octopus.
What I mean is
Octopodes.
that-
They can
Yeah.
make themselves blue.
same thing though. They're using their chromatophores to make these structures that will make them look blue. And so the basic way that animals get their colors is that there are animals that are colored with pigments, and then there are animals that are colored with what's called structural coloration, then animals that mix both. So pigments are, these actual colored chunks of material that absorb certain wavelengths of light and reflect other ones. And then the reflected ones are the colors that they are, right? And so pigments are stuff like melanins, which make brown tones. And this is what humans are colored with, are melanins. And then pterins, which are reds and yellows, which are named after birds because a lot of birds use pterins to color their feathers, but also use melanins as well because melanin is a good, something about the properties of melanin causes it to strengthen certain structures of the body. And then there are pigments which are produced with chemicals the body gets from food, and these are called carotenoids, which get their name from carrots because carrots have a lot of carotenoids.
Because if you eat
Yeah.
a lot of carrots, you turn orange.
Exactly. Beta carotene is a carotenoid that our bodies
Not a
can
beta,
process,
you're
and it
beta.
will turn you orange if you eat enough of it. And so, for the most part, only plants and bacteria
Eating
can
carrots
make
turn you into a
carotenoids
beta.
on
Got
their
it.
own. Vegetables make you beta. So,
Fucking soy boys.
for the most part, only plants and bacteria can make their own carotenoids. Then animals eat those plants and bacteria that make the carotenoids and use those to make their own coloration. So the most famous example of these are flamingos. Flamingos are pink because of the carotenoids that they get from the brine shrimp they eat. The brine shrimp get those
What?
carotenoids from the algae that they eat. So if you have a flamingo and you only ever feed it like some other food that's not the brine shrimp that
Hamburgers.
it naturally eats, it will just
Spaghetti.
be white.
It will die. Oh, wait.
Oh.
It'll just be white. It won't be pink.
That's
Other
fucking
birds, like-
crazy.
yeah.
What the hell? Hold on. That just blew my fucking mind. Did you? Is anyone else like freaking out about that? Because that's fucking crazy. That
Why?
flamingos are only pink because of what they eat.
You never knew that?
Yeah.
You didn't know.
It's wild,
Shut up. You didn't know
absolutely
that.
Yes, I do. It's the shrimp that
No,
makes
you
them, it's the
prove
shrimp
it.
that makes them pink. Zach?
Oh, that sounds right to me.
Yeah, so they get their carotenoids from the pink, who get they get their pink. They become pink because of the carotenoids they get from the shrimp, who get those carotenoids from the algae that the shrimp eat.
Yeah,
So
idiot.
then what other animals? What other animals do that? Like, are hippos gray because they eat rocks
Well,
or
no,
something?
because
Like,
they produce melanins. They have like most land mammals are browns or the various shades of brown because they produce their own melanin. But it's the carotenoids. So like other animals that are like a lot of birds get carotenoids. So northern cardinals and goldfinches also get carotenoids from the fruit that they eat. So if a cardinal wasn't allowed to eat these specific berries that they like to eat, they would also be white.
Barry White. Got it.
Yeah. And salmon eat shrimp that eat the algae. And so salmon meat has the coloration because of the carotenoids that they eat as well.
But salmon farmers will just dye the meat because they don't want to feed them the thing that they need to be pink. So if you're getting like farmed salmon, it's probably not naturally pink, but that like wild
would it
caught
just be like
salmon
white?
is pink. Yeah, I think it just turns white.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So
The fuck?
It's kind of wild.
That's crazy to think people would be like, give me some salmon. If it's not pink, I'm not going to eat it. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, just put some dye on it. No.
The frilled lizards, like the frill-necked lizards, as well. Do you know those frill-necked lizards? They live in like Australia.
Are they the ones that like they look like they're from Jurassic Park? They're like,
Yeah. Yeah, they took inspiration from them. Those ones, the frills have different colors based on geographically. So geographically, the different lizards have different colors on their frills, and that's because they have a different diet, and so they get different carotenoids to color the frills with.
Man, I'm getting dumped on. I'm getting straight dumped on right now.
So yeah, but again, this doesn't have anything to do with blue. This is just how animals color themselves, and so blue is a weird color, right? Blue stands out from the environment, and so a lot of animals that are blue because standing out is an advantage, like an evolutionary advantage.
I love standing
these are
out.
Animals.
I make sure to
These are
stand
animals
out.
that, yeah.
That's why he wears jeans and like the Ed Hardy clothing.
That's
still.
That's why I have a mullet too. Like,
Yeah, he's peacocking. He's like, look at me.
oh
My name is
God.
Bo.
All I do is peacock.
Well, peacocks are blue because of structural coloration.
So is Bo.
The blue feathers on peacocks are pigmentless. So they have no pigment in them. But this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the sexual selection. So bright colors are for animals that want to stand out. This is sexual selection. They want other, usually it's male birds who want female birds to notice them. And it's also aposematism. Ash, how do you pronounce that?
You got it.
Aposematism?
It's an aposematism.
Ash, explain what aposematism is.
Oh, I don't need to. I think that you got it.
I think everyone here knows what that means.
Yeah, I think
So aposematism is it's danger coloring. It's warning coloring.
It's warning coloring.
So this is for animals which typically this is for animals which are poisonous and want to warn predators that they will not be a good thing to eat. So this is like poison dart frogs. Poison dart frogs
or the same thing.
A lot of venomous snakes have aposematism. A lot of venomous fish have aposematism. And then there are other animals which will then have mimicked aposematism, where they're not actually venomous, but they rely on carnivores being conditioned from experience to not want to eat brightly colored things.
You said venomous, but did you mean poisonous?
I meant poisonous.
Thank God you corrected you,
snakes-
because the emails would have came in and called you an idiot.
We're about to have a hell of a time on Spotify answering all the Q&A questions like why is Zach spreading misinformation?
Venomous animals are do have aposematism as well, like coral snakes.
So you're saying if I paint a bunch of red triangles all over my body that are bright red, people won't fuck with me in the streets?
Exactly.
Because they're going to be like, that guy's skin is crazy. I don't want to fuck with him. I'm not going to eat him.
Or they think you're being racist trying to dress as a Native American.
Is that what Native American?
No, it was.
That's what racists.
You know what they
think Native Americans
It was a lowbrow joke.
A little light racism for your
lowbrow.
For your Wednesday.
No, I was calling other people racist, not me. It's not me.
Sounds like something a racist would say.
Oh my god. Okay, fine. I'm racist.
I mean, we knew
Yeah,
that.
so Bo's racist.
How did this blue this episode about colors is now spiraling into racism?
So Bo's racist. Let's move on. So some bacteria can be blue. Cyanobacteria, which the old heads remember from the Cambrian episode, can be blue. But no,
We do this
no
for so
vertebrate-
long.
A year ago.
no vertebrate animals create a blue pigment except for 2 species of fish in the Synchirapus genus, which have cyanophores. These are the only vertebrates that can actually make blue light reflecting cells.
Is that the dory fish?
They actually have blue pigments. No, the dory fish uses structural coloration.
Fuck.
What the hell?
Yeah.
What
so
is it?
all other
Tell
blue
us the
vertebrates.
animals.
What? I'm telling you the animals. The blue pigment. I just told you it's 2 species of fish. There
That's
are
it?
a couple there that can make blue pigments. These are the only vertebrates that can make blue pigments.
What about the blue ox from the bouncy guy, the paper towel guy?
But you mean Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox?
That one. Yeah.
They are modern American cryptids. They don't exist.
Oh my God. Paul Bunyan is a
A couple
cryptid.
of butterflies do actually make their own blue pigment. It's very rare though. Most
understand
like
the
blue
blue
morphos. Blue morphos use structural coloration. Blue jays use structural coloration. Indigo buntings, peacocks, poison dart frogs, blue coral snakes, blue iguanas. So they all their coloration comes from colorless structures that utilize the Rayleigh scattering that we talked about before to basically refract light and only reflect blue light. So there's
Okay.
no blue pigment.
But when we talked about the sky being blue, we said the sky is blue. And so why aren't these animals blue if they're doing the same thing as the sky?
They're blue, but they're not actually blue. If you took it and looked at its cells, it would not be blue. It would be colorless. There's no blue pigment.
I think you're full of shit.
So these cells are called idirophores, which are colorless cells, but they have a crystalline structure that refracts light. So even green, talking about green is also a color that is hard for animals to make. And a lot of green animals, like snakes, like green snakes, are yellow pigmented.
But I also heard it's
But they
pretty
have-
easy for you to make green because you make green poop. That's what I've heard. You used to make green poop.
Yeah, but that's an
Yeah,
artificial
but if
coloring.
you took his poop and you looked at it at a microscope,
So
Green
if you took a
cells.
green snake, if a green snake dies, eventually it will become blue because the yellow pigments will decompose and fade, but the colorless structure on top of that yellow pigment will remain. So all you'll see that's left is the blue,
so they are blue in a way.
I guess.
Mm.
If you want to get into the semantics of it.
Oh,
I love semantics.
you
Big semantic guy.
got dump,
Yeah.
dump, dude.
Okay, so I have one thing that's left. Blue in people. So
What about the eye?
Whoa,
I go
like,
for
the,
eyes.
like the Blue Man Group
You're going about the eyes,
we
aren't
all
you?
know somebody who has blue eyes, right?
or Eiffel 65.
Yeah, like from the beginning. Eiffel
Or the people
65.
that take that silver supplement and their skin turns blue.
Mhm. Or
Yeah.
Mamba number 5.
Stop it.
So blue eyes are not. I mean, at the same thing. Blue eyes don't have any blue pigment in them. There, are you happy?
No, I'm
But
never
what color
happy.
are your eyes?
My eyes.
So
We
Yeah.
talked about it last
we talked
episode.
about remember? Made fun of my shit.
Oh, the shit brown eyes.
Zach
Yeah.
made fun of
Okay.
my
they're
eyes.
espresso brown,
Well, so what color are your eyes, Zach?
hazel.
Shit, hazel
I feel like
eyes.
mine, Ash, do we have hazel eyes? I feel like I have hazel eyes.
You know, I don't know the last time that I looked into your eyes, bro.
All right, we'll do an eye check later.
Next time we see each other, we'll
So-
do an eye check.
Yeah, I mean we have cameras, but we can save that for in person.
Yeah, but does the
So-
light reflect differently in the camera lens than in our eyes?
It's Rayleigh's. My eyes, Rayleigh.
Scatter all over my eyes,
I'm not
really.
learning
Actually-
anything. I haven't learned anything.
Actually, the eyes, the scattering of light. So it's not Rayleigh scattering. It's the Tyndall effect. And so blue eyes are a lower concentration of melanin in the eyes. So brown eyes are the natural
Andrew, take a
color
picture of
of
your
human
eyes.
eyes.
Okay.
And this is caused by concentrations of melanin, which
Brown eye gang,
makes them
let's
brown.
go.
Then blue eyes are people who have a lower concentration of melanin in your eyes.
What
then an
about
effect-
red eyes?
An effect
That
called
was my
the
Ben
Tyndall
Stein
effect,
impression.
Albinism.
which is
Oh,
the Tyndall effect
Work
is
on an
basically
impression.
Rayleigh scattering, but in a colloidal suspension instead of in the air.
Clear
and
eyes.
a colloidal
there you go.
suspension.
That's better. You got it. You nailed it.
Are you telling me to hurry up, but you're not letting me say anything?
Sorry, it's
So-
Ben Stein impression, man. It had to happen.
So blue eyes
When it calls
don't
for
have
it.
blue pigment in them. It's a low concentration of melanin, which basically means that your eyes have less brown in them. They're to the point where depending on how blue they are, they could have no brown at all. Then the Tyndall effect, which is Rayleigh scattering, but in a colloidal suspension, which is what the inside of your eyes is, causes the light to scatter to color the iris of your eyes. It was published in 2008 that all blue-eyed people share common ancestry with one person who got a genetic mutation in the Black Sea region of Europe 6,000 to 10,000 years ago. But another study published in 2020 actually suggests it rose around the time of one of our migrations out of Africa 50,000 years ago. But blue-eyed people essentially have less pigment in their eyes. And the same with green than brown-eyed people. And this is why blue and green-eyed people have a harder time seeing when it's bright out. It's because there's less pigment around their eyes. There's less light absorption and more
Eyes are
light
so
goes into the
fucking
pupil.
pigmented.
Another blue animal that gets their color, there's one blue animal I can think of that gets their color from carotenoids that I forgot to mention before, and that is lobsters. Some lobsters are blue. They actually have blue pigment in them, but they don't produce it themselves. It is astaxanthin, which is a red carotenoid from their diet, but they clump proteins onto it, which turns it into crustacyanin, which makes them blue.
So it's
So
not
again-
actually blue. It's red
it's
that has
red.
proteins on it. It just looks blue to our eyes.
Exactly. And then final fun fact about invertebrates is that a lot of invertebrates use cells called not cells, but they use hemocyanin instead of hemoglobin
Oh,
as the
yeah, nice.
oxygen binder in their blood.
They
And
got blue
our
blood, baby.
Our blood uses hemoglobin, which is basically a cellular structure that incorporates iron, and the iron attracts oxygen, and then that's what delivers the oxygen to the rest of our body. Hemocyanin uses copper instead of iron, which causes them to have blue blood. So a lot of insects and a lot of crustaceans have blue blood. Octopuses have blue blood as well. And so horseshoe crabs, specifically the Atlantic horseshoe crab, their blood is bright blue, especially when it comes in contact with air. And their blood is used as an important ingredient in vaccine testing, which is interesting. It doesn't have anything to do with how it's blue, but I thought it was neat that horseshoe crabs are incredibly important to the medical industry.
Huh.
So that's everything about blue. That's more than you ever needed to know about blue. I was thinking about doing some of these about other colors too, because this was pretty fun to research.
This was very like the last few episodes that you have hosted. One, we're out of left fucking field. Like you came hot with Chef Boyardee, and I was like, where the fuck is he going with this? And it turned out to be a fucking great episode. And this one too. You said the word blue. I was like, what is this man on? And it's great. So good job. Well done.
Thank you.
Andrew, what was your favorite thing that you learned this episode?
I learned a lot of favorite things. I'm sad that I didn't learn what foods that I could eat to change my skin color, because I know that I could eat carrots to make myself orange. But what other foods? I would have liked to have learned that so I could change my color, like be like pink like a flamingo.
If you want to turn orange, so if you eat a lot of beta carotene, your skin will turn orange, but
I know that.
your body can't specify where it goes.
You
so
can't tell
just
my
turn
body
your
where
entire body orange.
what it can and cannot do. I'm built.
If you want to turn blue,
Ooh.
drink colloidal silver. Find colloidal silver
will
and
die.
drink it.
Is that the stuff that you just said was arsenic?
No, it's not arsenic. It is technically safe to consume, but it will turn your entire body blue.
Okay.
Even
That
your
sounds
organs will
cool.
become
I'm
blue.
into that. I
That's
want to
how-
be the Blue Man Group for Halloween, so I'm going to start that now. So I'm ready for October.
That's how I want my open casket to be. It's like my last days are just blue.
You're like, why is he blue?
And if you want to turn yellow, drink a lot and give yourself liver damage.
What's that called? Jaundice or something?
Jaundice, yeah.
Jesus.
Oh God.
Oh my God. He just Zach posted a picture of a blue guy. Oh, I hate that. No, take it away. I don't want
You
that
said
anymore.
that's what you wanted.
Yeah, until I saw this guy and he looks terrible. Okay, Ash, what was the favorite thing you
Looks
learned?
like Violet Beauregard.
He does,
Looks like a
and it's
Papa
fucking
Smurf.
horrifying. Like a fucked up real perfect Papa. This looks AI generated.
I learned that flamingos get their pink color from what they eat. I also learned that everything is a lie because you can't actually say what color anything is because it's just the way that our eyes are interpreting light that reflects off of surfaces.
bro. You
And so what color actually is it? Because if you have different receptors in your eyes, maybe you're seeing a different color than other people are
That's
seeing.
what color blindness
And
is.
if you
So
have,
wait,
You could
Was
have
Jaden
more,
Smith right?
so that you can see more stuff, and if you have less, you see less colors. What's real? Colors aren't real. That's what I learned.
Mirrors aren't real, but the eyes real. Jaden Smith was right. That's what the only
A
thing I
lot
learned
of
as well.
languages didn't have specific words for blue until woad was introduced into Europe.
Whoa. Bo, what
Which
was
made
everything
blue
that you
more
learned?
widespread.
Other than that woad rhymes with bow, sort of.
Oh, that was it. Fuck. No, did you know the sun is white?
That's
That's pretty
crazy.
cool.
That's the only thing
I do like that.
That's the only thing I took out from this.
Like that. Zach, what about you? What's your favorite thing that you learned while researching?
My favorite thing that I learned while researching is that cobalt gets its name from kobolds.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, the power
that.
tools. Yeah, those came first.
Well, hey, thanks for listening to that episode about blue. I hope that it made you blue with happiness and not blue with sadness, because sometimes people attribute that to both.
I'm always blue. With
That was my
sadness.
other thing that I thought was crazy was how we always
wrap it
associate
up.
blue with like calming and like low energy, but it's one of the higher energy colors.
Whoa.
Well, it's like the red thing too. Like red is
Yeah.
a lower energy color, but people associate it with danger and fast. So, you know,
Yeah.
the
Kerchow.
old switcheroo. Kerchow. But hey, thanks for listening for this episode. This has been episode 49. We're getting close to the year mark, guys. I'm very excited for that.
Means closer
And
to a
in-
skin
Yeah.
new tattoo. Maybe
Closer to Bo
maybe a
getting a
blue
tattoo.
one. Maybe a blue one.
Hey, there is blue in that tattoo,
There's
if
blue
you
in
did
that
get it. In the meantime, we will see you next Wednesday with a special episode, as we do it every time we have a 10th episode,
10,
I guess we'll say.
yeah.
It's me. I'm hosting it. Get ready again, motherfuckers.
Oh, God.
It's
But
not
thank you, Zach,
actually,
for
but
that
it's fine.
great blue episode. I am blue with envy.
If you want, if you want to get another deep dive into color, I mean, we did cover a few other colors in this episode, but if you want another deep dive into colors, let me know what colors you like, and I'll research
Green.
them again because
Do it now.
this was pretty
Purple.
fun.
Green. Go ahead and do green.
Yeah.
Do a 2-part.
I want you to do the colors that shrimp can see that we can't see.
Every
and I
ninth-
want you to explain them.
Every 9th episode, I want you to do a color.
Oh,
Okay.
God. Too many themes. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Make sure to follow us on the social, Get Dumped On Podcast on Instagram. And then if you want to send us an email, getdumpedompodcast@gmail.com. Other than that, we'll see you next week. Hump Day, Dump Day, coming at you.
Oh, yeah.
Yay.
Watch out. Here we go.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
See you later.
Ash and Zach are super smart. They went to college and learned a bunch of stuff. And Bo and Andrew didn't go to college because that's just the way life goes sometimes. What happens when you put them together and you try to make them learn? Grab your friends, let's listen together on Get Dumped On an Info Dump Podcast.
Blue, green, red,
It's time
yellow.
for blue.
Bye 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 bye
Blue is done.
bye bye.
Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
Love you. Bye.
Okay, bye.